Hello my beautiful tea minds, welcome to my tea chamber and Happy New Year! Yes, it's a tea ceremony New Year which always happens in November. So it's different from the regular New Year, but it also serves a different purpose. November is tea ceremony New Year. And what does that entail? That means that we are shifting from the summer service to the winter service. And the summer service and the winter service of tea ceremony are largely different. In summer, what we use is something that is called a furo. The furo is the floor brazier. It's usually a metal or lacquered or ceramic basin in which the ash is kept and the fire, the charcoal, is put inside of it. This is placed on a lacquered floorboard or a floor plinth, and that is placed on top of the tatami. This can be moved around and it can be placed as far away from the guests as necessary, because that is really the reason why we use it in summer. We want to distance the heat from the guests during the hottest months in summer. This floor brazier also has the purpose of encapsulating the heat, so it doesn't let as much heat out, which again protects the guests from being too hot during a tea ceremony in summer. Now in winter we use something that is called the do, or what we translate in English as the sunken hearth. The sunken hearth is a pit that is set beneath the flooring and it is flush with the tatami. This pit is clad with thick earthen plaster walls to protect the heat from, of course, causing a fire. And inside again is inserted ash, into which then the charcoal is set for the kettle to be put onto it and to let the water boil. This sunken hearth is a part of the architecture of the tea chamber, whereas the floor brazier is something that can be moved about. And so because it is a part of the architecture of the tea chamber, we pay much more attention to the sunken hearth. The sunken hearth is an essential feature. It is not only centrally placed in the tea chamber, where everyone is sitting around the hearth, and so when the heat from the hearth comes out, it also disperses into the tea chamber and is divided evenly. But it is also an essential part of the tea chamber itself. A tatami matted room without a hearth is not a tea chamber. And so after having used the floor brazier, having done the service of tea for summer, when in November we transition on again to the winter service using the sunken hearth, we hold a special celebration to it. And because this is a yearly cycle, we call this the New Year of Tea Ceremony, because this transition again marks the start of a new cycle of a tea ceremony year. So in November we use the sunken hearth until April. From May onward we use the floor brazier and close the sunken hearth. Now if you pay attention to the dates, you can also see that April and May are the months in which the fresh tea, or the fresh harvest, the shincha of that year, is produced. A tea practitioner would always look for the freshest tea to use. But with matcha for tea ceremony, it's a bit different. We hardly ever drink the freshly harvested tea right off the bush. We would let the tencha leaf, which is the base material for the matcha powder, age for half a year and only drink it in November. The freshly harvested tencha is put into a special tea jar like the one I have over here. And these tea jars are very precious. They're very rare. Not many artisans make these anymore. Also, they're not being used that much anymore because now dedicated warehouses and other packing material is favored over this more elaborate style. But from a cultural and traditional perspective, for a tea ceremony adept, these jars are essential items. The tea in this jar is packed in such a way where you have a paper pouch in which the high quality koicha tencha is put in. That is inserted into the jar, and you might have either 1 or 2 brands of koicha. And around it is again a pack of lesser grade tencha. This tencha is usually used for usucha. So you have your paper pouch, which is special and is set in the center of the jar, which is then surrounded by lower grade tencha leaf, which is then used for usucha. So if we look at it from this perspective, we can actually say that the koicha grade tencha is what is really the purpose of having it in this jar, and the lower grade thin tea usucha leaf is basically just packing material. So this jar, when it is packed and when it is sealed off, it's usually sealed off with a paper seal, is then set into the sunken hearth before it is closed off in May. Then it stays under the floor for half a year until in November we open the sunken hearth again. This is a grand occasion, and it actually entails 2 celebrations. The opening of the sunken hearth itself is called Robiraki, and we would usually hold a special tea ceremony for Robiraki, in which we would do an offering to the god of the hearth, which is basically the god of the tea chamber. And we say, we're happy to take you in use again. Please grant us your good favors and give us another good year of tea ceremony. And so after having put the fire in the hearth, we would also give an offering of rock salt, unpolished rice, bonito flakes. The salt is to purify the heart. The rice is to give an offering of the things that we get from the land, and the bonito flakes is an offering of the things that we get from the sea. So to have a bit of everything and to give a full scope of offering. Now, if there were a jar like this in the sunken hearth, then the jar would have to be taken out, and this jar contains the fresh tea of that year, which no one has yet drunk. During this tea ceremony, we would dedicate a special ceremony to this unsealing of the jar. This ceremony is called the Kuchi-kiri no gi. During the Kuchi-kiri no gi, the jar is completely opened. The paper seal over the top of the jar, which is underneath this cover, is cut open with a knife, ritually, and then the tea is rolled out. The pouch with the koicha is taken out. Because it's still tea leaf, it has to be ground. So that tea is then collected and it is ground with a stone mortar. Now, of course, that takes a little bit of time. So before you can actually go on with the real tea ceremony, the guests will have to go out and the host will have to grind his tea in order to be able to offer it to his guests. Now, these jars, they possess tremendous value. Not only because they're not so very common, but also because in the Edo period, the procession of the tea jar, called Chatsubo Dochu, was more important than any procession of any lord in Japan. The shogun favored his tea very much and would in April always send over a group of tea connoisseurs, tea professionals, to go to Uji, blend the tea, select the tea and pack a jar full with the tea for the next year. Now, this jar had to be very carefully carried because it contained the highest quality of tea, and this had to be carried all the way back to Tokyo. It would take them 6 months to arrive. But they would stop on the way in Yamanashi Prefecture to take a rest and to hide from the summer heat. Carrying this jar out in the open sun would cause the tea to deteriorate too quickly, and so instead they would store the tea in a cool and dark warehouse in Yamanashi Prefecture for 3 months until the summer is over. So by the time they would reach Edo, common day Tokyo, the tea would have aged for half a year. And so that is when the shogun would drink his tea for the first time. Now, is it out of respect for the shogun only to be able to drink his tea after half a year? Or is it really a consideration that makes the tea better? I leave that up for a speculation, but the tradition continues till today. And in the Edo period, there was also a person called Kaibara Ekken. He was a doctor, and he actually vouched for letting tea age at least half a year, preferably even a year before it is consumed. Because drinking the tea right off the bush in a shincha form would be too powerful and too damaging for the stomach. And he said that would not be a good idea. So if you found this talk interesting, if you found it meaningful, don't forget to like this video, also subscribe to the channel and click the bell for updates so you get notified on more content that I will be putting out in the future. And leave a comment. What do you think about this jar? Would you love to own one? Would you actually put tea in it and do it properly? Would you like to learn how this ritual works? And last but not least, I have also prepared a set of teas that were harvested this year and that are now available as the shincha, the fresh tea of matcha after half a year that you can enjoy at the Tea Crane. So check the link in the description below where you'll find the URL to my special 2022 Robiraki Kuchi-kiri special matcha set, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you again at the Tea Crane.